Today is Monday, August 27, 2018. I greet the good people of the earth in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. The epochal revelation of yesterday on the so-called Russian government meddling in the 2016 United States election is still reverberating in the kingdom of darkness. As we consider in this space today a major previous, a egregious act by this same deep state that shook the very foundation of America, laid the world nearly 18 years ago. That is the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack on America known as the 9/11 attack. Like always, my name is Chinyere Ezog, the messenger of the carcass that is gathering the eagles of God worldwide. This is my 14th message and the 13th voice message that I'll be sharing with the good people of the earth. On this 9/11 attack, I will read today to be continued. On this 9/11 attack, I will read today to be continued later, the part 1 of my piece on it, written in 2016 to mark the 15th anniversary of that dastardly act that I dedicated to the victims of that inglorious attack. It was part of my decode of the speech of the former American Secretary of State, John Kerry, that he delivered in Sokoto State, Nigeria on Tuesday, the 23rd of August 2016, that was not published in the journal we have been serializing for some time now. I will read from that script exactly as it was written then, that may not represent the present tense of some event that are already taking place, and also individuals as it may still address Barack Obama as the President of America. Please bear with me for proper understanding of the discourse, so that you will understand that it's not today I started. I've been on the trail of this gang for a very long time, It didn't start today. So I'm starting from it. This is a special edition dedicated to the victims of 9/11 attack in the United States of America. May their soul rest in peace. Then, extract from John Kerry's speech in Sokoto. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's speech at Sokoto continues. Now we have learned a lot about extremism in the last years. We obviously have been consumed by the fight against it since 2001, when out of the blue the attack in New York took place. That is John Kerry, I extract from his speech. Okay, I'm continuing. I've closed the speech. Now, this is what I wrote on it. The September 11, 2001, otherwise known as 9/11 terrorist attack on America, did not suddenly happen like a thunderbolt or out of the blue. The attack that has been variously described as the darkest day in American recent history, that claimed the life of over 3,000 people with more than 6,000 people injured, was a carefully planned and well-executed attack. September 11, 2016 marked the 15th anniversary of that dastardly act committed by a gang of evil men, and I dedicate this piece to the memory of those innocent men and women, children even unborn in their mother's womb, that died on that very sad day. Also to the injured and the families of all those who lost their lives to the evil gang that are still presently behind all the evil activities happening all over the world today. May the good Lord grant all those precious souls that died in the attack peace and continue to energize and strengthen their loved ones who continue to bear the pain of the loss of their dear ones. 15 years is time enough to expose their killers, to enable their souls rest in peace, which we are going to do in this piece now. Above all, as another election draws nigh in America, may the good Lord open the eyes of American electors to enable them to see the serpent that is in the so-called Democratic Party of Nigeria and this presidential flag bearer Hillary Clinton, otherwise a party I refer as the demon-possessed Party of America, that will destroy the world if allowed again to come to power. The then incumbent President George Bush was told first about 9/11 attack while he was visiting a school in Sarasota, Florida, United States of America. According to him then, he caught a glimpse of the horror on television as he flew to a secure base in Air Force One. His first reaction when he heard about it without a glimpse from television was to find the culprits and make them pay. His words, I'm quoting him, his words then, "My blood was boiling. We were going to find out who did this and kick their ass," he said. but later the realization of the scale of what had happened to his fellow countrymen and the extent of their loss down on him, and he exclaimed, I'm quoting him, "An enemy has struck our capital for the first time since the War of 1812. In a single morning, the purpose of my presidency has grown clear, to protect our people and defend our freedom that are come under attack." End of quote. Of the victim, Bush had ways for them, he says, I'm quoting him, "I felt their agony and despair. I had the most powerful job in the world, yet I felt powerless to help them." End of quote. With more reports of attacks coming in, President Bush first thought, according to him, "My God, when is this going to end?" It wasn't until he arrived at the White House that the full reality of what had taken place finally hit him. "I looked out on an abandoned, locked-down Washington," he said. "In the distance, I saw smoke rising from the Pentagon. The symbol of our military might was smoldering. I was struck by how scared and ruthless the Al-Qaeda pilot must have been in order to fly directly into the low-lying building. That night's sleep did not come easily. My mind replayed the images of the day, the planes hitting the buildings, the towers crumbling, and the Pentagon in flames. I thought of the grief so many families must be feeling. I also thought about the heroism of the flight attendants on the hijacked plane who calmly called supervisors to report their status, and the first responders who raced towards the flame at the World Trade Center," the then President George Bush recalled. Still recalling his experience of that terrible day, he says that just as he was dozing off, a figure appeared at the doorway, breathing heavily, and in what proved to be a false alarm shouted, "The White House is under attack, let's go." I told Laura we had to move fast. She didn't have time to put on her contact lenses, so she held on to me. I grabbed her ropes and guided her with one arm while I scooped Benny, our Scottish Terrier, with the other. That was exactly the former United States of America President George Bush recall of his experience on the day of the 9/11 attack in America in 2001. As he rightly noted, the terrorists were highly scared. I flashed back to this experience of the then President George Bush because the same evil gang are at it again today. The then President Bush promised to find out who did the attack on America and make him pay, which I still think neither him nor any of his successors had been able to do that, which is what I will help achieve in this space, because almost 14 years later, this same criminal abominable gang kidnapped 223 female students from Girls Government College, Chibok, on 14th of February 2014, out of which nearly 219 Chibok abducted female students are still missing to date, until recently when they exchanged 21 of the girls for their foot soldiers. And it's very important on this 15th anniversary remembrance of the 9/11 attack to expose this gang once and for all for the world to see. I will not dwell much on this, since I had already articulated what happened then in the past series of this ongoing narration, but suffice it that I reproduced part of a piece I wrote in 2001 when the incident took place, published in many local journals, entitled "Message of an 11th Hour Strategy." It was published in local journals like National Interest newspaper, Treasure magazine, and quite a lot of local journals gave coverage of my piece then. Quoting from part 1 of the publication of Anchor newspaper of October 11, 2001, my piece in that paper, I wrote, among other things, then, that the sheer depth of intellectual ability displayed in that most abominable act as regards the conception of the idea speak for itself. Selection of targets, training and retraining of personnel involved, resources involved, access to classified critical scientific and security information involved to maintain secrecy, and very critical evidences both before and after the act seriously show that we are dealing with a group of evil organizations that is much higher, with access to unlimited information and unhindered movement of persons around the globe, access to unlimited resources, an organization that can be everywhere and yet nowhere at the same time, almost as if we are dealing with extraterrestrial UFOs. Bin Laden and co. do not possess the sophistication and other necessary wherewithal to undertake such a complex assignment, not when the motivation is to force the United States of America to withdraw its military presence from the Middle East and Gulf, particularly Saudi Arabia. They are not that, and should know such an act will boomerang against them. This were a end of quote. These were exactly what the same evil gang reenacted almost 14 years later in the Chibok girls' abduction, as they ensured their moves in the government of the then President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan continued to confuse the then president and some honest members among his cabinet, and keep them on the surrealistic day that no abduction took place, to the ridiculous extent that when eyewitnesses account during the day of the abduction of the girls testify that they saw helicopters of their external collaborators of the so-called Boko Haram terrorists that were used for the operation that aided them to successfully move away with the abducted girls at that very critical stage of the operation before they can settle down. The then President Jonathan security chief denounced the report and discouraged President Jonathan from the report, and the critical lead was lost as it was not pursued. Still on my piece on the 9/11 attack, when it occurred, we have seen how the then President Bush blood was boiling to kick somebody's ass. We want to bomb them and so on and so forth. I wrote in that piece then, still in the edition in that paper, the publication of the local journal, I wrote, exactly as I wrote it, I'm reading it, to avoid the imminent specter of the Holocaust that will be the backlash of American intention to invade Afghanistan in respect of the assumed prime suspect Osama bin Laden, it is a plan from the deepest pit of hell conceived and executed by the brightest negative fundamental intellectual extremists, the very devil second in command in human form. The actual motive of the attack on the symbolic locations of the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and so on and so forth is to precipitate a revenge to make President Bush do exactly what he intended to do now. That is, we gotta bomb someone, we gotta feel good, we gotta show them we can't be pushed around, all of which will be extremely big. Immediately President Bush does that, he will be assassinated not by those he will bomb, but by the unseen shadowy figure lurking behind to take advantage of the melee that will ensue. That unseen shadowy figure is behind all the bombing and confusion and still more horrendous acts to come in other guises in America and other parts of the world. End of quote. That was way back in 2001 when this piece was written. Nearly 14 years later, on 14th April 2014, that unseen shadowy figure lurking behind that was responsible for the 9/11 attack also kidnapped the Chibok schoolgirls, just as she used bin Laden and Al-Qaeda in the 9/11 attack on America. Nearly 15 years later, used the same Al-Qaeda in the form of Boko Haram and Abubakar Shekau as four guys while still hiding behind the curtain we are going to tell of today and reveal his dear face. In the same piece I wrote in 2001, I stated among other things that has it ever occurred to anyone that neither Osama bin Laden nor the Taliban government of Afghanistan had the motive to undertake such a negative act? This was an act committed by a gang with a lot for nihilistic power and passion for cruel display. Does the world not realize that we have all entered into an emergency situation? Do the security departments like the CIA, FBI, and so on and so forth realize the full depth of the extraordinary situation they are confronted with globally? They are dealing with an event and other series of actions to come, pre-planned over so many years and put in the cooler to be brought into operation as and when due. The anachronistic nature of the 11-day strategy is the main reason why they could not find the needed vital clues being sought for today. All the necessary evidences to serve as pointers have carefully been eliminated and buried in the past, exactly with the Chibok schoolgirls. End of quote. Exactly with the Chibok schoolgirls abduction, which was one of the pre-planned acts put in the cooler that was brought into operation on April 14, 2014, when each time was due to be acted upon. The anachronistic nature of the Chibok girls kidnapped by the same gang was the reason why we are where we are on their rescue. Does the day about Hausa Majiri Boko Haram, if they are actually the ones doing all this, have the intellectual ability, resources, and so on and so forth, to successfully abduct and successfully warehouse such a large number of human cargo for as long as they have done since 2014 to date? The same sophistication and wherewithal applied in the success of the attack on American 9/11, even more were applied in the kidnap of the Chibok girls and undertaken by exactly the same gang. How and why I got involved and went after this evil gang. The world will know exactly where I started my journey from, my motivation, what actually got me involved in this thing I'm doing today. This is how it all started. When Chief M.K. Abiola was assassinated by this same evil organization, and his very beautiful wife, Kudirat, assassinated too, Abiola's demise stirred up something deep inside me and eventually galvanized my person into activism. I became an activist, and I vowed to him at one of those condolence registers open at Olodi Apapa, Aziz of Lagos, as in so many places then, to unveil his killers, no matter what it will cost me, even if it cost me my life. Even though I do not know any of the Abiolas, or had never had any relationship or business or otherwise with any of Abiola of this world. Even Abiola himself, I don't know him. The sheer effrontery of that man's assassination was not only an affront, but a necessary impetus that galvanized me into action. Moreover, against the situation of the people of the former Eastern region in Nigeria, the childhood reflection and memories of the Biafran Nigerian War, and the growing up processes of a carefully study of roles individuals played and countries individuals played in that Oriental massacre, and what the world was really all about, especially as it relates to the issues of life or art. Does God really exist? I asked myself. I needed a convincing answer to that inquisitiveness. I saw the unequal upside-down system that existed in Nigeria. The drawn line barrier against the Igbos, no matter how hard they try, there is the level they cannot cross. The former Minister of Education, Fabian Osuji, during the era of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, summed it up somehow while giving evidence at a public hearing by the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Performance on the 55 million naira bribe for budget scandal on Monday, April 11, 2005, made the following observation when he was asked to name those present at Senator Adehije's house when he took the money with his aides to the committee members. He said it will be difficult to recall everybody's face. I'm quoting him. The point is that I cannot easily recall. There have been a few meetings within a few days, he said, and he went on to tell the committee that he never thought his action would turn out to be so unpleasant to a lot of people. His words, in the circumstances, one cannot but feel unhappy about the turn of events. But at that time it was happening, I am sure neither the distinguished senators nor myself and honorable members concerned thought of any possible repercussions of the type we are witnessing now. So to that extent, one would be worried. I also feel unhappy that most of it has been exaggerated, misrepresented. I have been presented as a thief, somebody who stole money, and somebody who diverted money, or somebody who gave a bribe. But the entire circumstances did not suggest anything like that. That is just the point. So that could be a source of regret. But again in future, we try to eliminate all this from government and government practices. Then of course everybody will say they wouldn't do it again. But I'm afraid that what we are witnessing is so selective and is so discriminating that it does not offer any hope. Even now as we are speaking, we are told that there are other ministers and other ministries and other ministers that do similar things. But mine was a subject of a broadcast. Why shouldn't I regret it? I have been in public life for more than 40 years. I have been educated and made to serve in various capacities in universities and so on, in government, and this did not happen before. So I regret it. Why not? I'm human. End of quote. End of his quote. Now, after all the anti-corruption trend, first on the move then, called the duel of Senate President Adolphus Wabara and Professor Fabian Osuji, all Igbos. What happened? It grounded to an automatic stop, and it never moved again to date, as Professor Osuji prophesies. What happened to Honorable Maurice Ibekwe? That the mother killed compared to Honorable Farouk Lawal in the $500,000 bribe scandal with Otedola. What happened to Dr. Chubo Kadibo in the streetlight contract scandal compared to the budget pageant involving the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dagoro? How many Hausa Fulani and Yorubas, including Sambo Dasuki himself, have been made to refund their own armed funds scandal money after people from the former eastern region like Oliver Meto, Jim Mobulu, Peter Odele has refunded theirs after government and twisting? How much has Olufale, Bode George, Sambo Dasuki, Ahmadu Ali, Shinkafi, Jakasi, and so on and so forth? How much have they refunded after people from the eastern region have been forcefully made to refund theirs? Now the Kano that killed nobody is in detention. That was then. After being granted bail by a court of competent jurisdiction, is still being detained while the Boko Haram spokesman, Konduga, that murdered hundreds of people and many other Boko Haram members had been set free by the Buhari's administration, with Buhari paying a yet unmentioned amount of money that must have run into billions to the Boko Haram cells in the so-called swap deal of the Chibok girls. These were the type of gist pimples I feel all over my body that is a reflection of how I felt when Abiola's demise occurred. I looked at the people, most honest and helpless Nigerians, who had paid too great a price for the confusion, extortion and evil maneuvers of their statocratic, sanguinarian, vicious and salacious leaders of their country, Nigeria, who in their quest to satiate their rebellious appetites like winter wolves, they remain shameless as a new statue in the realm of the resources of their so-called fatherland. Their subjects drag like Lazarus in tent and chloroform, while they, the leaders, indulge in their hedonistic indolence and inglorious lifestyles, bringing the hopes and aspirations of their people to a hurried end as engineered by their Western country collaborators. Those circumstances spurred me into investigating the process and raising the ether of Abiola's death, which might as well help in breaking the iron curtain that covered the helpless people and perhaps set them free. Abiola's demise, which I eventually traced to his reparation crusade, an epic titanic battle that saw me embark on a revolution of the heavenly sphere, so to say, and terrestrial as well, and my eyes was opened into the secret things of the deity called God and the very elusive element called Lucifer. As carnal and as human as I was, I developed and progressed to a level where I was able to set trap for the fallen angel Lucifer, and the mighty Lucifer, student wisdom, fell into the trap of a mere mortal man like myself. That was how I was able to unveil the identity of the supreme Antichrist and his worldwide underground government, much more powerful than the physical government of the whole world on earth. They virtually control almost all the governments of the world. That shadowy figure, always lurking behind the iron curtain of negative world events, frequent occurrences, that was responsible for the 9/11 attack, also responsible for the kidnap of the Chibok youth, is none other than Bill Clinton, former American president, the man behind the mask. Look at all the whole people mentioned anywhere negative events are happening in the world, always people associated with the Democrat Party of America and Clinton. Now, Bill Clinton, Bin Laden, and then President Bush. When Gaddafi of Libya was about to be toppled, and Tony Blair of Britain went to visit Gaddafi, who asked him whether he supported terrorism. Tony Blair promised to speak to people at the top of their evil underground empire and urged Gaddafi to keep the line open, probably to call and force him to flee Libya and avoid an ungraceful end. Who did Tony Blair seek permission from? Of course, from Hillary Clinton. Who created Al-Qaeda in the first place? Bill Clinton. He was the one that trained Bin Laden and supported him. When President Bush was taken over from him, he told President Bush that his greatest regret was his inability to face Bin Laden during his presidency. How can he face what he created? Science Telegraph of the Sunday Telegraph of September 18, 2016 did an interesting revealing numerology of the number 11 as it relates to the 9/11 attack on America. He quoted a special report carried out by the International Time magazine of August 12, 2012 that emphatically stated 9 months before 9/11, the U.S. had a bold plan to attack Al-Qaeda. It wasn't carried out until the Tower fell. Pages 24 to 37 of the same edition told the whole story of how on the first week of January 2001, the White House debated taking the fight to Al-Qaeda because of their previous attacks, but by the time they decided, it was too late. Why the then President George Bush did not immediately take the fight to Bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, on assumption of office. The Bush administration by January of 2001 debate on taking the war to Al-Qaeda was as fresh to power as a new brown vehicle that is still wrapped in cellophane, and does not actually know exactly where the shoe pinches as regards the date of terrorist targets to be attacked. That is very much well understood by the regime of his predecessor, who actually would have done the attacking himself or have a blueprint for the attack as a major handover document to the succeeding administration, and emphasize on action being taken immediately as his blueprint for attack would have detailed the importance of the need to attack Al-Qaeda. But did he do that? Of course, he never did, only to claim that he made several attempts to kill him. The Time magazine story of 12 August 2002 that emphatically stated that 9 months before 9/11, the U.S. had a bold plan to attack Al-Qaeda. It wasn't carried out until the Tower fell. And also wrote about the White House debate of first week of January 2001 of taking the war to Al-Qaeda because of their previous attack was not as straight as it appears. Like I stated earlier, the imperative detailed conviction of documenting all previous attacks carried out against America by Bin Laden Al-Qaeda, and the must need to go after him was never emphasized upon by the outgoing administration of Bill Clinton. But in order to protect Bin Laden, knowing fully well that the incoming President Bush does not know anything deep about the activities of Al-Qaeda and will rely on information about that from Bill Clinton directly or through his handover note and then through the security chiefs he inherited from the outgoing Clinton's administration before he can appoint replacement for them if he does not trust the efficiency. Bill Clinton planted those he left behind, members of the court of the New World Order, who deceived the new and fresh government of George Bush into believing that his major leading security challenge then were Saddam Hussein and Iraq, missile defense, and so on and so forth, not Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, because even then the 9/11 attack had already gone by in planning, planned during Bill Clinton's stay at the White House, which was why and how they got all the necessary classified information that aided the successful executions of the 9/11 attack. And the timing of the attack, September 11, 2001, was the most vulnerable for the fairly new President Bush, who may have made new appointments to replace some of the old hands whom themselves does not know much about Al-Qaeda's activity that still relies on their immediate predecessor, and when the attack came, they virtually went scot-free, even unsuspected, and cannot be called back or offered any useful information they know about, as most of them are involved. Lack of depth knowledge of Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda on the part of President Bush and his new security chief was how Bill Clinton and his gang escaped suspicions that is only one part of the game they played, and rather let Bush blood boiling to go after Saddam Hussein, who posed no threat then either against America or even the world at that time. For instance, why did Mr. Paul Wolfowitz, the American Deputy Defense Secretary then, and others like him, led the newly sworn-in President George Bush to believe that Saddam Hussein was his major problem? Who asked them to do that, knowing that at that particular point in time, the new president does not have any choice then other than to trust and obey them as security experts, trusting that every one of them, including his predecessor Bill Clinton, like him, has burning desire and totally committed to making America greater, not realizing even then that the course of the American cruise ship had changed course after the founding principles of the great forebears of America, who built a nation in God we trust and liberty to all men of goodwill, and followed the destination of the Nigerian ship course that changed course long before the American state ship followed her on her destructive, damnable journey of no return and everlasting darkness. Those were the problems the then President Bush experienced to a lesser degree because it was still covered, not yet known to many of the underground governments within the American same physical government. That is what the Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump is battling with presently, that people did not appear to understand him, but rather see him as a threat to the world, when the man is very sane and possesses what it takes to start recovering the conscience of America from the hands of the demon-possessed Democrat Party of America and all their previous leadership in recent decades, and their today aspiring candidate Hillary Clinton, an apt description of the devil's manifestation as an angel of light, that even if she wins the presidential election, must not be allowed to become the president of America, but rather she should be prosecuted for her crimes against humanity. Now, the connection of Saudi Arabia government. For 8 years, Bill Clinton served as United States President. He had first-hand record of all his activities, or rather of the activities, because Bin Laden was only carrying out Clinton's order indirectly, because, and this is very important, on how Clinton conceived his track successfully, because all Clinton's underground dealings and his New World Order gang are rooted through the government of Saudi Arabia. That is the most important revelation in this piece. The head of the serpent is deeply buried in the heart of the Saudi Arabian government. If one wants to uncover the evil deeds of the members of the New World Order, don't look for their physical organization, as it doesn't exist except when they come occasionally, like the recent gathering at the Rockefeller Plaza to celebrate the 70th birthday of their king, Bill Clinton. They don't have a physical face per se you can point out. Only very few of their leaders know their human face that coordinates their worldwide empire, that is the Saudi Arabia government. cross-check all the global activities of the Saudi Arabian government, including their role in the 9/11 attack, including sponsors of terrorist groups, causing instability in government all over the world, dividing people religiously, even among their so-called fellow Muslim faithful. These are the handwork of the members of the New World Order headed by Bill Clinton. They were behind all the illegal oil racketing and bunkering going on in Nigeria, especially in the past, to maintain the lie that Saudi Arabia was the biggest oil-producing nation of the world. Lies. Nigeria was until they stole Bakassi Peninsula. Before then, the front of Saudi Arabia, being the biggest oil-producing nation, was maintained through illegal bunkering and trafficking in oil, as Nigeria produces both our own share and that of Saudi Arabia illegally and unknown to many, until I blew the lid off in several writings in the past, and most recently through phone-in contribution in an international radio forum, that is Radio Biafra. Presently, Saudi Arabia claims they have rebased their economy from oil and start most of their oil ships. Who knows the truth about their past dealing? For 8 years, Clinton did not go after Bin Laden, even when he had several opportunities to take him, as he admitted in Long Island in 1986. That is the very island that symbolizes Bakassi Peninsula and the Coded Green Tree Agreement. They used to steal it, but later denied what he said. As far back as 1996, Bill Clinton, as the executive president of America, had all the security reports from American intelligence services that clearly shows them that Osama bin Laden was a ringleader of Al-Qaeda after Saudi Arabia supposedly ejected bin Laden and he took up residence in Sudan. Clinton did not go after him then, rationalizing his inaction that he thought then that bin Laden was only a terrorist financer or sympathizer and not a ringleader, and also not very sure whether he had committed any crime against America. Even when in October 2000, before he left office, when USS Cole was bombed in Yemen, with clear findings from both the CIA and the FBI that connected bin Laden to the earth, did Bill Clinton act against bin Laden before he left office? No. Rather, he suppressed the security report on bin Laden so that he cannot go after him. Even when he had him on a platter of gold, when he took up residence in Sudan, and the Sudanese government were more than ever willing to hand him over to America, did Bill Clinton ever took that opportunity? Even when security investigation and intelligence services were pointing out to the U.S. government on training camp bin Laden was likely to visit in Afghanistan one after the other, did Bill Clinton send in the American Special Force to track him down on this camp? He never did, because it will implicate him, which brings the issue of Osama's connection to the whole episode. Why Osama bin Laden did not spill the beans, why he did not talk on what he knew about the 9/11 attack, and the real reason why President Barack Obama assassinated him. Osama bin Laden did not spill the beans on what he knew about 9/11 attack because of the hold Clinton had on him through the real face of the organization, probably unknown to Osama bin Laden until he died, though he may have suspected something was amiss. That hold was Saudi Arabia government. That was why he played along, knowing his safety was guaranteed. They were the ones who indirectly arranged a safe haven for him in Pakistan, Abbottabad, where President Barack Obama, acting on orders from Bill Clinton, not as American president, murdered Sheikh Osama bin Laden on May 1, 2011. Yes, Osama was murdered, and President Barack Obama must go in for that murder. Osama bin Laden was not assassinated because he was the mastermind of the 9/11 attack on America, which he was not. Even though Barack Obama used the position of American president to justify and cover his evil act of Osama's device as being in Americans' interest, exactly the same manner Olusegun Obasanjo used the position of Nigerian presidency to steal away Bakassi Peninsula to this same occult group, pretending it to be acting in the interest of the country he was the president then. You see what I mean? A diabolical movement clothed in state power, purporting to be acting for the state he puts on his clothes, while in reality is acting for an entirely different interest, diametrically opposed to the actual interest of the clothes they are wearing. You see what I mean about Nigeria-American stateship changing course, same gang, same spirit, same plot emanating from the same source, Obasanjo and Obama. President Barack Obama did not kill Osama bin Laden because of the interest of the American government he appeared to represent, but rather murdered him to cover the involvement of the Bill Clinton's New World Order movement, which obviously was beginning to dawn on him in the aftermath of reports he was receiving after the 9/11 attack that would have made him bin Laden spill the beans if he was captured alive to face trial. It is an internationally accepted norm that an accused person is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Then why did Barack Obama, hiding under the U.S. presidency, ordered as a first and last choice to the killer squad, he sent to Pakistan to kill bin Laden instead of capturing him alive when all the opportunities to do so existed but never exploited? How was the decision to murder Sheikh Osama bin Laden arrived at? Instead of getting him alive, that would have yielded positive revelations and information that would have been used to defeat the present Hydra-headed terrorist acts worldwide and even help American security agencies to be able to identify moles in different departments of American establishment for leaked classified information that enabled the group to successfully carry out the 9/11 attacks on America. President Barack Obama is still in office. He should be made to bring out the record of the security briefing and meetings that opted for murder of bin Laden instead of taking him alive. Barack Obama should face the charge of the murder of Osama bin Laden. President Barack Obama did not create Al-Qaeda. Bill Clinton and co did. But he is as much guilty as the people that created the evil organization because he had used the evil outfit to commit crimes against humanity all over the world. Just as President Muhammadu Buhari did not create the Boko Haram outfit, Bill Clinton and Olusegun Obasanjo did. But he is guilty as those who created the evil outfit because he did not only use the outfit to rise to power, but he had used them and is still using the Boko Haram outfit to commit crimes against humanity in the murder of thousands of innocent people of Nigeria. President Obama's speech on Osama bin Laden's death on television of May 1st, 2011, the day Osama bin Laden was killed in Abbottabad, Pakistan, entitled "The Indivisibility Nature of the U.S. is Worthy of Emulation," reads in part, "And tonight let us think back to the sense of unity that prevailed on 9/11. I know that it has at times frayed, yet today's achievement is a testament to the greatness of our country and the determination of the American people. Let us remember that we can do this thing not just because of weight or power, but because of who we are, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all." End of quote. Now I'm paraphrasing Obama's speech above on what needs to be done. And tonight, let us think back to the sense of unity that prevailed on 9/11. I know that it has at times frayed, yet today's achievement, killing of Osama bin Laden, is a testament to the greatness of our country and the determination of the American people to know the truth about all those who plotted and executed that evil act on humanity and bring them to justice. Remember that we can do these things not just because of weight or power, but because of who we are, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Just tell me, that is the end of my paraphrasing him. At this 15-year anniversary of 9/11 that killed over 3,000 people with more than 6,000 wounded, liberty and justice for all is on trial today if America will still endure as the actual perpetrators of the dastardly act against humanity are brought to book, including Obama for the murder of bin Laden. Osama bin Laden's son, Hamza bin Laden, do not need to act like a terrorist to avenge his father's death, as he has vowed to continue the global group war fight against the United States of America. All he needs to do is to take President Barack Obama and the American government to the International Criminal Court and charge them for the unlawful murder of his father, Osama bin Laden, in order to clear his father's name and demand for hefty compensation for Obama's assassination of the father's character. Of course, Barack Obama will be jailed for the murder of Osama bin Laden. Why 9/11 victims and Chibok girls kidnapped victims must sue American government now? They have to sue American government. This involvement of President Barack Obama with the court of the New World Order was the reason his state U.S. Congress made a mistake by overriding his veto power and pushing through a bill that allowed legal action against Saudi Arabia over 9/11 attacks. Exactly wearing the cloth and the office of the President of America, pretending to be acting in the interest of America by claiming that the bill will set a dangerous precedent for individuals around the world to sue the United States government. But his real intent was to share the involvement of the members of the Court of the New World Order, led by Bill Clinton, who were the actual masterminds of the evil plot, using Saudi Arabia as cover. The U.S. Congress vote on Wednesday, the 28th of September 2016, was the first time President Barack Obama's veto power was overruled by Congress. Their agents occupy strategic positions in U.S. government As of today, that is the reason one of their very strategic agents, the current CIA Director John Brennan, aligned himself with President Barack Obama's position on the bill, saying that the bill carried grave implications for national unity, adding that the downside is potentially huge. The Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism, that is JASTA, legislation opens the door for victims' family to sue any member of the Saudi government suspected of playing a role in the 9/11 attack. 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi nationals. Reacting to the congressional vote on Wednesday, Barack Obama told CNN, "It is a dangerous president, and it is an example of why sometimes you have to do what is hard." End of his quote. What is hard President Barack Obama did was the murder of Bin Laden. He may well become the first president of America that will finish his tenure and move straight to prison because of his nefarious acts as president. Between Obama and members of the Congress who possess the interest of America more, that vote against Obama's veto power by Congress is a major evidence that confirms what I have been rebelling about America under the Democrat Party. The same CIA Director John Brennan was the one U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry was reading all their operational strategy for implementation against the Biafran agitators in the coded speech John Kerry delivered in Sokoto State, Charles Brennan, meaning operational orders for implementation against Biafran from CIA Director John Brennan on Tuesday, the 23rd of August 2016. Now, what must be done to know the truth about 9/11 and the kidnap of the Chibok girls? Foremost, there must be an open, in-depth investigation of the role Saudi Arabia government and their king, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, played in the 9/11 terrorist attack. Not to be handled by the present director of CIA or FBI, but selected out investigators that must not compromise on the truth, not even under the incumbent President Barack Obama. The investigation will also cover Bill Clinton's era. Secondly, families of the victims of the 9/11 attack should sue the Saudi Arabia government directly for sponsoring and masterminding the 9/11 attack. Thirdly, the parents and families of the kidnapped Chibok girls and families of the victims of Boko Haram attacks must sue the American government, Barack Obama, CIA outfit, and this director, also John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, John Campbell, Olusegun Obasanjo, Muhammadu Buhari, and others for creating and sponsoring Boko Haram, which they used to commit inhuman atrocities that led to the death of their loved ones. When that starts, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton's faces will appear very clearly. This is the first part. We are going to deal with the second part later on. So I'm going to stop here, okay? So let the good people of the world, let them have a nice time. I'll end this one here in Jesus' name.